Hello, my beautiful friends. It's been a while. I apologize. Had some health issues to deal with. Just got over the flu. If anybody's got it, I'm sorry. It's not fun. Also had a pretty bad arthritis attack in one of my knees. Kept me down for a little bit, but I'm getting better. And today we're going to talk about recognizing and removing toxicity from your life. But before I get going, if you would, please like, comment, subscribe, help my channel grow, help me reach more people, because the whole purpose of this channel is to share what I've learned from my life experiences and share my perspectives, and hopefully help as many people as possible. So let's start with toxicity and what it is. And basically, as far as I see it, toxicity is any person, place, or thing that brings negative energy to you, does not want you to succeed, does not want you leveling up, and does not have your highest purpose in mind. And you don't need any of that in your life. And nobody has a right to bring it to your life. The only way it comes to your life is if you allow it. Now, a lot of times it can be family, it can be friends, it can be co-workers, it can be the workplace. And in many cases, people are so good at being manipulative with their toxicity that they'll actually make you feel bad for thinking about cutting them off. Or maybe they'll have you believe that you're actually the problem. Again, definite signs of toxicity. You don't want that around you. So for me personally, I had quite a bit of toxicity in my life. I am very fortunate that I have, I grew up with a good family. And certainly, not to disparage anybody, but there's toxicity there too in certain ways. And I'm not saying my family doesn't love me and doesn't want good things for me, but, everybody does something. But my biggest issues with toxicity were, unfortunately, my marriage, and my career. And both places were kind of the same. The biggest offenders were, my ex, certainly my bosses, and there were several other people at work. There was kind of a group. And even though I didn't give them a reason to, want to dislike me or anything, because of their own shortcomings, their own insecurities, their own weaknesses, their own jealousies, I was seen as a threat. And because of that, I was attacked and attacked and attacked and attacked. And the one thing I will say is, thank God I was resilient enough to keep picking myself up and going. I knew for a very long time that I needed to get out of both situations. But as far as the marriage was concerned, it wasn't just me and my ex. There were other people to consider, and the repercussions of what could happen. So I did what a lot of people do, and I stayed, for those reasons. And I was trying to get to a point, but I finally hit my breaking point and realized just how toxic the entire situation was. And, I'm not blameless because I allowed it. I allowed the manipulation, and I allowed bad treatment and childish behaviors because I was allowing myself to be manipulated. But thankfully, when I finally reached that breaking point, it was literally a breaking point, and I just said, that's it, I'm done. So as much as I never wanted it, I initiated the divorce because I knew that it wasn't healthy, and not just for me, but for everybody involved. It just wasn't good at all, and it wasn't going to get any better. Any attempts at trying to make it better just had failed miserably. So it was not easy to go through. It was a lot of work, a lot of pain, a lot of unnecessary nonsense. But in the grand schemes, thank God, that was 50% of the toxicity in my life. And getting out of it was one of the best things for me. And honestly, I believe it was the best for everybody. Because it doesn't just affect one person. So then we'll move on to work. I was in my career for 23 years. And, from the time I got in the door, I had already been kind of targeted and screwed over. And I had to fight to get that resolved. And then it was just an uphill battle from there. Unfortunately, in police work, the worst thing that can happen is politics being involved. And being, small town department, politics are brutal. And that leads to the wrong people getting put in charge. People that are narcissistic, spiteful, wanting revenge for how they were treated by the previous people. And even though, I always held myself to that higher standard, and I always did my job, and, I had a very good reputation. It didn't matter if I was, if I was on the bad list because I didn't do what they wanted, or I didn't do something the way they wanted, or I didn't go after somebody they wanted me to go after, I'd get targeted and punished, and it was ridiculous. At the time, I was one of very few people that were actively taking on more roles and more responsibilities because I wanted to make my department better. There were a lot of people that would just run around and say, you think this is real, it's just smoke and mirrors. And I would take offense to that because we're police officers. We have an enormous amount of responsibility to do our jobs properly, to hold ourselves to that higher standard, and to care about our citizens. Why else do you take the job? Seriously, a lot of guys take it because they wanted a pension, or they wanted to be able to do details. And I get money is a factor. But if you're not there to do the job, then why are you there? So, regardless of what I did, regardless of how much grace I showed people, how much forgiveness I allowed, how many chances I gave people, it was just constant attacks from the day I got there to the day I left. And sadly, the people at the top who should have seen the things going on and should have made them right, made them worse. They wanted their favors done, and the people that did them for them got rewarded. So now, unfortunately for them, because I'm out, I left, the whole command structure is a mess. Very few people that are in charge should be. And, I'm not saying this to sling mud or anything like that. It is what it is. I'm not there anymore. They have to deal with what they've done, what they put in place. But when you, as the leader of your department, waive certain criteria that are in place for a reason, just to put people into authority positions because they're yes men, you failed. You didn't do your job. You did the whole place a disservice. And shame on you for doing that. The biggest kicker for me was when I initially got there, I got teamed up with a field training officer, and we bonded. My mother was a teacher in the school system, and he had gone through and he had always spoken very highly of her, which I appreciated, and I believe that he meant it. And over time, we developed what I thought was a really strong friendship, almost like a brother to me. And there were signs here and there that he didn't always have my back. He wasn't always on my side, because to no fault of his own, he's like everybody, and I mean this. I'm not singling him out. He's got a lot of unhealed, unresolved things from life, and I don't judge him for them because I don't know, what caused them. Nor would I judge anybody. What right do I have to judge anybody for that kind of thing? Just because I recognize it doesn't mean that I can say right or wrong. That's not the point. But in the grand scheme of things, we did a lot together, and I believed in that friendship. And this person, he was, out of all the people that I worked with, we were the closest. And he spoke a lot of long-term friendship and staunch loyalty, but what I didn't want to admit to myself, but always kind of knew, was that was a one-way street from me to him. And I know that to be true because in the end, when that friendship and loyalty was most needed, it wasn't there. I was getting punished again because I spoke my mind, and the head guy didn't like it and didn't like me, and I was about to get unfairly, unjustly punished again, and the guy who had the power to step in and say, hey, this isn't right, turned his back and went silent. And that's when I finally let myself admit that it was a one-way street from me to him, and he didn't have my back. So, did it hurt? Yeah, but I've kind of known it for a long time. Once he got his position of power, I saw the connection drop off pretty heavily. I wasn't really, a concern anymore. He got from me what he needed, and once he had it, that was that. I wasn't needed anymore. And that happens in so many places and in so many ways. But again, there's the toxicity. That's what I had to deal with. And I'm not sad that I made the decision to leave. I'm not sad that I cut all communication cold turkey. Anybody who knows anything about Capricorns will give you a chance, but if you cross us or disrespect us or whatever, you're just gone. That's it. There's no coming back. There's no accepted apologies. There's no second chance. You're done. And you know, I've let it go. I'm not mad. Disappointed, sure, because I really thought that what he and I had built and what we spoke of was legitimate, but it wasn't. So those were the two main sources of toxicity in my life, and I cut them out, and I've continued to do that. Anybody that you know, knew about what was going on, or you know, actively sat by and watched it, or didn't tell me, or didn't lift a finger, goodbye. I don't wish you any ill. I hope you heal. I hope you do the work. I hope you know, have a good life, but karma's gonna come. And I hope it's not too harsh. But you're gonna have to deal with it. So we're still in the beginning of 2026 here in January. Take the time to look around you, see who's around you, see how they treat you, recognize red flags, recognize manipulation, gaslighting, and think about how much grace and forgiveness you've offered. And if these people are still doing this, simply say goodbye and walk away. You know, there's no need for closure. You're not obligated to give that. They don't deserve it. It's up to you if you want to do that, but unfortunately, people don't see that maybe they were wrong until something drastic happens. And certainly I'm not advocating for anything violent or cruel or mean or anything like that. That's not who I am. But set hard boundaries for yourself. Have your self-respect. Know your value, know your worth. And if people can't, if they can't abide by your boundaries and they can't treat you how you deserve, say goodbye, move on. They're not your people. When you do that, you give yourself a new chance to surround yourself with people who will appreciate your boundaries and who will respect you for who you are and appreciate you, and your life will get so much better. I don't feel like I've lost anything other than toxicity. My life is far happier. I'm much happier than I've been in a very long time. You know, it's a shame to have to lose people, but if they're not there for your greater good, then they don't belong there. They don't deserve you. So, as always, everyone, I see you all for who you really are, and I truly do love you all for it. I wish everybody a beautiful new year, success, happiness, good health. Take care of the important people in your life that are good to you. Cut out the toxicity, let it go. And take the time to do the work for you, not for anybody else, but for you. Because you're the only person that can bring out the best version of you. And I hope that for everyone, sincerely. So, video's running long. I apologize. I just had a lot to say. I usually try and keep them down to 15 minutes, but this was an important one. So you will be getting more videos from me soon, and some other things that I'm trying to work on. So good luck, and just have a great new year.